here in NV Energy. I happen to know this because I've been working with her over the past month or two in preparation of a filing. Fortunately, I'm happy to announce that given her title, her discussion appears to have nothing whatsoever to do with taxes, which we can all be thankful for. Speaking on the topic of all's fair in bugs and war, please join me in welcoming Rachel Ringenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I bought a house a couple of years ago, and I quickly learned that I know absolutely nothing about home ownership, even less about yard work and maintenance. I learned a lot since I'd moved in, but there was one thing that I was definitely not prepared for: the bugs. It'd be one thing if we were just talking about an ant here or there. I could handle that. Spray a little bug spray and they're gone. But no, it goes beyond that. I'm talking about earwigs, aphids, snakes, bugs, bees, and everything in between. So today, I'd like to share with you my three-part elimination strategy for bugs, which is to identify, to eliminate, and to prevent. In any war situation, which goes with today's theme, which was a coincidence, you first need to know your enemy, and that's true in bugs as well. Sometimes the bugs are easy to identify, like an ant or an earwig, but sometimes you don't actually see the bugs, so you have to be able to identify the damage as well. Aphids are tiny little pear-shaped bugs that can come in any type of color, but they're usually found as a dense colony underneath the undersides of your plant leaves. If you're like me and you don't have the courage to actually peek underneath the leaves to see what's under there, you can identify them from the damage they cause, which can be mottled leaves, curling leaves, or yellowing leaves. Unfortunately, ants and aphids usually come in pairs. They're partners in crime. So if you start to see a bunch of ant hills around your yard, there's a high likelihood that you also have aphids as well. The ants tend to eat the honeydew residue that's left behind by the aphids, so it becomes a food source for the ants. And the ants will go to great lengths to protect their aphid colonies, which is delightful for your yard. Some sources will tell you that earwigs are actually a beneficial insect if their population is kept in control. I personally say that anything that creepy looking is not beneficial and needs to go. Because they're usually active at night, you probably won't see them during the day, but you'll see their damage, which can be anything from chewing ragged holes through your plants or the petal leaves and tunneling through the flower buds, or consuming any seedlings that you plant. I frequently find them around the bottom of my rose bushes, or also tunneling their way through the roses themselves, which is delightful when you're stopping to smell the roses. Now that you know your bug enemy, it's time to eliminate the bug enemy. I'm totally not one of those hippy-dippy types that feels the need to save the bugs. They need to go. I learned how to kill ants and bugs from the master, which is my dad, who would launch chemical warfare against the ants in his yard using sprays that may or may not have been legal in some states. Unfortunately for me, I have a very high-need special maintenance dog who tends to graze my yard like a goat. So using those types of Agent Orange sprays is really not an option for me. For a chemical-free way to get rid of your aphids, you can get rid of them using a strong stream of water from your hose. That'll knock them off the plants and usually get rid of most of them. For the hardcore ones, you can also use a homemade bug spray of baking soda, dish soap, and water, and spray that on there. It'll usually suffocate the aphids, but you'll want to go back and rinse the plant off later to get rid of the dead aphids and any of the bug residue. For the earwigs, unfortunately, it requires a much more hands-on approach. You could trap them using a moistened, rolled-up newspaper, which the earwigs would go into, and then you take the whole newspaper and you dump it into a bucket of soapy water. That face is my face, too. I am not touching a rolled-up newspaper full of still living earwigs. So my alternative that I've found is that the earwigs are actually somewhat alcoholics, which we kind of appreciate that, they're earwigs. So you can get rid of them more instantly by filling up a small tuna can with a little bit of either beer, or they'll also use cooking oil if you're not a beer drinker, if you don't keep that around the house. But they'll be attracted to it, and they'll go into it and they'll drown themselves, and then you can just dump out the whole tin can. Much easier, less work to get rid of them. But please note that it is very unsettling to discover how many earwigs attractive one small tin can. Finally, your best defense against bugs is a good offense. It's much easier and far less creepy crawly to get rid of or to prevent the bugs in the first place than to get rid of them once they've moved in. You can discourage aphids by planting herbs such as sage, thyme, lavender, or dill around the plants that you want to protect. You can also attract the beneficial insects like ladybugs, which are far less creepy crawly, to help control your aphid population. Dill is a great plant to use because it will actually attract the ladybugs but repel the aphids, so it's a good one to have in your yard. Keeping your garden clean is your best way to get rid of and prevent earwigs. They tend to go to moisture, so they're attracted to moist hiding places, such as under leaf debris or dead grass or wooden piles. So you'll want to keep all of that clean. Birds are also a natural predator against earwigs, so if you have a bird feeder or a bird bath in your yard, you can attract them and help keep your earwigs down. So to review, my 3-part bug elimination strategy is to identify, to eliminate, and to prevent. But if all else fails, just remember you can kick back and just have a beer with the earwigs.
Sure.
Thank you.